No, I'm not a human. The demo was just the beginning. Now, in the full game, we meet new characters, uncover disturbing clues about the visitors, and see even more twisted endings. Today, we'll break down and explain the story of No, I'm Not a Human. The story begins with a disaster. The sun's temperature suddenly rises to extreme levels. Going outside during the day becomes really dangerous. Anyone who steps out can get badly burned, even die. Our main character, let's call him Victor, who is a loner. Quiet, isolated, with no family or friends. He doesn't like people and prefers to live alone. But one day, everything changes when his neighbor shows up. The neighbor warns Victor about the disaster. The sun has become deadly, burning anyone who steps outside during the day. But nights are even worse. Strange creatures are emerging from underground. They look just like humans. People call them the visitors. What's terrifying is you can't tell who's human and who's not. He also warns Victor, many people have lost their homes, some burned by the sun, others running away from the visitors. So some survivors will knock on his door at night, asking for shelter. The neighbor begs Victor to let some of them in, but he also warns him about two things. First, some of the people knocking at his door might not really be people. They could be visitors. Victor has to be careful about who he lets in. Second, he can never be alone in the house, ever, because from time to time, a strange figure walks by, and if it finds out Victor is alone, it will kill him. Now, Victor has no choice but to do the one thing he hates the most, be around people, and even invite them inside his house. The next day, Victor watches the news. Everything the neighbor said is true. The sun is too hot to survive during the day. The government declares a state of emergency. That night, Victor wakes up to knocking on his door. The first person he lets in is a tall man who had been kicked out of a pub because of his bad behavior. Then a strange young woman comes in. She suffers from anxiety and mental problems because of something terrible that happened to her. The last two survivors are a man and his wife, but something's off. The wife never speaks. The husband does all the talking for her. The next morning, Victor watches the news again. For the first time, scientists announce a sign that can expose the visitors. Apparently, they all have unnaturally perfect white teeth. Victor rushes to check the teeth of the people in his house. He notices the strange girl has this exact feature, but Victor hesitates. That alone isn't proof. After all, white teeth can be normal too. Victor calls his neighbor, asking if there are other signs. The neighbor doesn't know. He just tells Victor not to judge too fast. White teeth alone don't mean someone is a visitor. The next day, more survivors show up. First, a woman with her young son. She tells Victor she had 5 children, but only this boy is left. She doesn't know where the other 4 went. She believes their father took them. Then comes another man completely out of touch with reality. He claims he doesn't know anything about the sun disaster or the visitors. That makes no sense, but Victor still lets him inside. Later, Victor looks out through his window to check the situation outside. And then, he freezes. A strange figure is standing right outside his house, watching him. It's like the strange figure outside is waiting for the perfect moment to break into the house. Victor notices something terrifying. The man's skin doesn't fit right. And that's when he knows for sure this isn't a man. It's one of the visitors. From another window, Victor sees a group of young people brutally murdered. And of course, he knows the killer is the same strange figure he just saw. The next day, the news reports a new sign to spot the visitors. Their hands and nails are always dirty because they dig their way out from underground. The government still believes the visitors are creatures rising from below the earth. Victor leaves his room to check the refugees in his house, looking for these signs. But what he finds shocks him. He sees the man and his silent wife both murdered in the kitchen. Panic hits Victor. That means one of the people he let in is actually a visitor. The one Victor suspects the most is the strange man who acts disconnected from reality, the one who claimed he knew nothing about the sun disaster or the visitors. That lie is too big. Victor decides he has to get rid of him. Later, Victor turns on the radio, but what he hears doesn't match the TV news. The radio says the visitors are not creatures from underground. They are humans, possessed by evil spirits. Anyone could become one. The only way to get help, the radio says, is to call a special phone number. Victor calls, but it's a scam, just frauds trying to take money from desperate people. Victor goes back to his room and turns on the TV. This time, he learns about an organization called FEMA. Their mission is to capture visitors or anyone suspected of being one. But then comes a chilling warning. A dangerous figure is roaming the streets. People call him the Pale Man. He kills people, but not just anyone. He targets those who are alone. The neighbor had already warned Victor about him, and Victor realizes the man outside his window before, it was the Pale Man. That night, Victor wakes up again to knocking on his door. When he checks, it's the Pale Man himself. He asks one question: "Are you alone?" At this point, Victor has two choices. If he says yes, if he says no, the Pale Man will leave, at least for now. Victor tells him he's not alone. The Pale Man walks away. Soon after, another survivor arrives. He's a taxi driver. He explains that a strange passenger got into his car, and from his perfect white teeth, he knew the man was a visitor. So he drove him straight to FEMA headquarters. But then FEMA tried to arrest the driver too. Somehow he escaped and made it to Victor's house. This could mean two things. Either FEMA saw visitor signs in the driver too, or maybe FEMA just arrests anyone to run tests on them. Victor lets the taxi driver in. Then another man arrives. He starts speaking in riddles. He says we are living in an illusion, that we are only memories of someone who disappeared long ago. He wonders if we are living in another person's dream, or if we are the ones dreaming. His words make no sense, but it feels like he's trying to reveal something important. Victor just can't understand it yet. Before leaving, the man tells Victor to let in the next visitor, the one who will arrive with a cat. Then he disappears. Victor looks outside again and sees soldiers searching for the Pale Man. He hopes they'll take him down. He goes to sleep and wakes up to the morning news as always. This time, there's another new sign that shows who the visitors really are. The next sign is, their eyes glow red. Victor checks the radio and hears a strange broadcast. The host announces he will bring on a famous doctor and researcher, someone with secret files that prove the truth about the visitors. But then, shock, the doctor never shows up. He's vanished, and all his documents gone. Someone out there doesn't want the truth revealed, which means the visitors are not just creatures from underground like TV news keeps saying. They are something else, something hidden, and maybe FEMA is the only group that really knows what's going on. Victor goes back to check the people in his house. He inspects the taxi driver and notices two clear signs. His eyes are red, and his teeth are unnaturally perfect. Now it makes sense why FEMA tried to arrest him. He's clearly one of the visitors. Victor pulls out his weapon and takes him out. Then he questions the strange girl. He asks her why she left her home. She begins telling a long story. She says she lived with another girl, her roommate. One day, after losing her job, she came home and noticed many shoes outside the apartment door. She thought her roommate had friends over, but when she went inside, the place was empty. She went to her roommate's room to ask about it, but found the girl lying still on the bed, silent. Suddenly, she felt someone grab her from behind. They dragged her to the kitchen. She panicked, but at the last second, she broke free and escaped. Victor listens carefully and notices a hole in her story. He asks her,
"How did you stay outside all day without the sun burning you?" She can't answer. She just says she doesn't remember. She only remembers fainting. That's enough for Victor. He decides she must be a visitor too. Later, Victor calls his neighbor. The neighbor explains that a FEMA officer came to his house the night before and took away one of his guests. But the neighbor is suspicious. He feels FEMA is hiding the truth and not telling the full story.
The next day, a FEMA agent shows up at Victor's house, just like what happened with the neighbor. The agent wears a full protective suit, like he's hiding from something dangerous. He asks Victor to give him one of his guests so FEMA can run tests to see if they're a visitor. Victor agrees, and the agent leaves with one of the survivors. Soon after, another man shows up. He's dressed in heavy clothes, almost like it's freezing outside, but we know the truth. The heat outside is deadly. When Victor asks, the man says he never feels hot, he always feels cold. Strange, but Victor lets him inside anyway. Not long after, the neighbor's daughter shows up at Victor's door. She's crying and shaking. She tells him the visitors attacked her father, killed him, and burned their house to the ground. She begs Victor to let her in. Of course, he agrees. Then another girl arrives. She looks strange, and she's carrying a cat. Victor remembers the bald man's words, "Let in the person who comes with a cat." Victor looks out the window again and sees that the soldiers who were searching for the pale man have all been killed. And now he's standing outside Victor's house, holding the head of one of the soldiers. He just stands there, staring straight at Victor. The next day, Victor learns a new sign of the visitors. It's in the armpit, always clean, no hair. But when he checks some of the people in his house, he finds something disgusting, bacteria growing there. And the worst part? When Victor checks himself, he has it too. Victor cleans it off, but deep down he knows he might be sick. He goes back to his radio and finds this strange random phone number. The radio says you can call if you feel lonely. So Victor calls, and we learn more about him. His life wasn't easy. His family? Terrible. He says he hated his dad. And after his dad died, Victor inherited the house he's in now. But he hates that house. It's the same house where he grew up, full of bad memories with his father. That's why Victor avoids people and likes to stay alone. There's also a photo of a woman in the house. We don't know if she was his wife or his mom. When you click on the picture, Victor says he's glad she's gone, that he likes living alone. But it feels like a lie. You can tell he's actually sad she's not there anymore. She might have been the only person who really cared about him. Now, without her, the house feels even emptier. Later, Victor goes back to his room and turns on the TV. A shocking news report comes on. FEMA finally admits the truth. The visitors aren't some strange creatures coming from underground. They're humans, infected, turned into visitors. And not only that, they can spread it. If you touch one, you can change too. So yeah, the visitors are not strange creatures that just look like humans. It's an infection, a disease, and anyone could become one, even Victor. That night, someone knocks on the door. It's a FEMA worker again. He asks Victor to hand over another guest. Victor asks him about the first guest they took, and the man says everyone they collect has to stay in quarantine until they're sure they're not infected. Then, the worker takes the neighbor's little daughter. She's crying, terrified, but Victor can't do anything to stop it. After that, the pale man comes back. He mocks Victor, asking if he really believes he can save the world. He says humanity's fate is already decided, that chaos and the dogs now rule the world. And when he says dogs, he means the visitors. He tells Victor the only thing left is to accept death. Even if the disaster ends, the world will never be the same. But Victor doesn't give up. He refuses to surrender. The pale man warns he'll return later. He leaves Victor alone. Then, out of nowhere, a young man shows up. His mouth is stitched shut, like with rough thread. He can't talk. Victor feels sorry for him and lets him inside. Soon after, another man shows up. He's wearing a FEMA suit, so Victor thinks he's an agent. But the man admits the truth. He stole the suit off a dead worker in the street. Victor believes him and lets him in too. The next day, the TV reports that the fires are spreading all over the city and the visitors keep attacking. Around this time, people discover a new way to spot the visitors. If you take a photo of someone and their face shows strange dark spots in the picture, that's a strong sign they might be a visitor. Victor turns on the radio again. The news is worse this time. The quarantine zone exploded and some visitors escaped. Even worse, they report that FEMA burns the bodies of any visitors who die to stop the infection from spreading. It's clear now, the visitors aren't aliens or underground monsters. They're humans, infected by a disease, and anyone could turn into one. Later, Victor goes to check on his guests like usual. He starts with the guy wearing the FEMA uniform. Victor asks him again if he really isn't part of the organization. The man insists he's not, but this time he changes his story. He says he found the suit in an abandoned car. Victor remembers the first story. The man said he took it from a dead worker in the street. The lie is obvious. Suspicious, Victor doesn't hesitate. He takes care of him. Next, Victor turns to the man who's always cold, but what he sees shocks him. The man says he's going to show Victor the secret he's been hiding since he arrived. Then, suddenly, he lifts his shirt. There's this huge hole in his stomach. It's dark, almost moving, like something alive inside him. Before Victor can even process it, the strange girl in the room with him, she suddenly explodes, dead on the spot. Victor has no choice. He has to act fast. Night falls. Fires spread across the entire city. People run through the streets looking for shelter as their homes burn down. FEMA agents are executing anyone they suspect. The next day, Victor sees breaking news on TV. Finally, FEMA reveals the truth about the visitors. They admit visitors are not aliens, not zombies, not failed experiments. They're just humans infected with a disease that mutates them. But the scary part? They still don't know how the infection spreads. On the radio, Victor also learns that FEMA kills anyone who tries to escape quarantine. That night, as usual, the guests come knocking. The first one is a maniac. He kills anyone he even slightly suspects is a visitor, even if they just show the smallest symptom. And not only that, he even kills anyone who feels sorry for the victim. Unlike the visitors who are sick and forced to hurt others, this man kills for fun. He even burns houses with families inside, just in case a visitor is hiding there. Of course, Victor doesn't want him inside. The man demands to examine Victor himself, just to be sure. After checking, he confirms Victor is still human and leaves. The second guest shows up, claiming he used to work for FEMA but left them. He says he has secret information, that he knows the truth about everything. Victor waits, expecting answers, but the man just keeps talking in circles, saying strange, confusing things. Nothing makes sense. The third guest is a man with no eyes. When Victor asks what happened, the man admits he ripped them out himself, like he saw something so terrifying, so unspeakable, that he couldn't stand to look anymore. Victor tries to handle it. He asks the young man to describe what he saw. The guy says he saw something so horrifying, he can't even put it into words. It's a being no one's supposed to see. He even ripped his own eyes out, thinking it would erase the image from his mind. But it didn't work. The memory is still there, burned into him. The fourth guest is this woman. She tells Victor she used to live nearby with her kids. FEMA kicked them out of their house, but didn't take them to quarantine. After being forced out, she searched for a safe place and ended up at Victor's house. Also, this person, who, despite his appearance, which Victor finds a bit strange, he's really kind and loves to joke around, always telling little jokes. After welcoming everyone, Victor goes to bed. The next morning, he wakes up to the news as usual. They're reporting on the explosion in the quarantine zone, the one he heard about on the radio, and the visitors who escaped. Suddenly, the TV flickers and the broadcast comes back, but with a news reporter he's never seen before. She talks about a strange new sign of the visitors. Tiny creatures, like insects, live in the brains of infected people. Sometimes they even crawl out of their ears. But strangely, the info didn't come from FEMA. When Victor calls FEMA for more details, they deny that any bugs come out of the visitors' ears. Either they don't know, or they're hiding it from the public. Victor decides to check if these bugs really appear on some guests, and sure enough,
He sees the insects crawling out of this woman's ears. So the phenomenon is real. Naturally, Victor ends it immediately. Night falls. It's the last night Victor will have guests. The next guest is a teacher with a tragic story. She used to work in a school. When the visitor disaster began, people started to suspect everyone, even children, thinking they might be infected. They called these suspicious kids the contaminated. People believed the children would turn into visitors when they grew up. To protect them, the teacher hid the kids in her school, but the others decided to burn the entire school with the children inside. She was the only survivor. The guilt of not being able to protect the kids crushed her. In the end, she decides to end her own suffering. The pale man comes one last time. He stands in the doorway and speaks to Victor. He says the end is coming. If the visitors don't take over, humans will, either through FEMA or even normal people who now fight each other out of fear. He tells Victor that death or transformation into a visitor is inevitable. There's no escape, the end is everywhere. The pale man continues, saying Victor is the chosen one. He hints that there are beings far stronger than the pale man himself, the ones who sent him to Victor. Maybe they want to break his will, put him through a psychological test, enjoy torturing him mentally, and see how he reacts when danger surrounds him. For the last time, the pale man asks Victor, "Are you alone?" But Victor insists on holding on to life. He still believes in humanity. He answers, "No, I'm not alone." The pale man leaves him for the final time. It's obvious the pale man doesn't just want to kill Victor. He wants to break him mentally, make him doubt everything, and scare him. The next morning, he closes all the windows. He decides to take the guests in the house down to the basement. They stay there, waiting for something new to happen, hoping they survive together. But as days pass, tension and doubt grow inside Victor. His trust in the people around him fades. Fear of death and murder rises, especially since he has nowhere to run. Danger and death feel everywhere.
One day, Victor wakes up to find people standing in front of him. That's when he realizes some of the guests he let into his house, who went to the basement with him, were visitors all along. They attack him, tearing his body apart with their hands. This is Victor's end, at the hands of the very people he trusted. So far, we've seen two endings: Victor dying at the hands of the pale man, and Victor being killed by the visitors he trusted. There are still 8 more endings to discover. Ending 3 is a bit like the one before. Victor brings the survivors down to the basement. They stay there for 2 months, hiding in fear. This time, luckily, no visitors are among them. They just wait, hoping the sun will burn everything outside and cleanse the world of the visitors. One day, they hear on the radio that solar activity is decreasing. Scientists say it will soon be safe to go outside during the day. But Victor isn't relieved. He isn't happy the disaster is ending. Fear still controls him. In his mind, he survived this round, but the end is coming. He only escaped for now. And waiting for the end, it feels even worse than the end itself. Ending 4 happens if Victor loses control. Fear takes over him completely. He starts killing the guests he once trusted. The guilt becomes too much, and he decides to end his own life. But the guests are furious. They decide to take revenge, dragging Victor outside and throwing him into the sun to burn. Ending 5 happens when the disturbed man starts to suspect Victor is a visitor. He points a gun at him. Victor does the same. Both wait, tense, for the perfect moment to shoot. Suddenly, a gun goes off. They both shot each other. The bullet hits Victor's chest, but before he dies, he releases all his rage on the man, beating him violently. In the end, though, Victor dies. Ending 6 is the cult ending. One night, a stranger knocks on Victor's door. He is the leader of a mysterious cult. The cult believes the only way to survive the disaster is through death. They think killing each other is the path to salvation. The leader asks Victor to host 3 of his cult members for a few days. If Victor agrees, the leader will return to take them away. He also offers Victor a chance to join their deadly rituals. If he accepts, the cult performs the ritual and burns him alive, but they promise that in death, Victor's memory will live on forever. Ending 7 is the cat ending. The bald man tells Victor to let a girl with a cat into his house. When Victor does, the cat finds the basement. As Victor opens it, he discovers a place he can dig. The bald man keeps visiting Victor over several nights. Each night, he looks thinner and more exhausted, giving Victor instructions on what to do to reach the ending. When Victor digs in the basement, he finds secret tunnels under his house. Eventually, he finds people digging a deep hole. When Victor descends, he finds himself in a place like the sea, and a strange entity speaks to him. This entity is death. Then, Victor finds himself in a wide field with a lone house, far from everything and everyone. The scene then shifts to the poster hanging in Victor's house. It shows the lonely house standing in the wide empty field. Victor has finally found the peace he always wanted, a place to live alone, far away from everyone. In the official game trailer, Victor is shown in the basement hanging from the ceiling. I believe this is what really happens in this ending. Victor ends his own suffering. Ending 8 is the FEMA ending. Over several nights, FEMA agents keep showing up at Victor's door. As the player, you have two choices. You can be aggressive, rude, and show you don't respect them, or you can follow their orders, trusting them as the people trying to save humanity. If Victor is respectful and follows their orders, one agent will ask him to join FEMA. Victor agrees, and he learns what FEMA does to humans. Ending 9 happens one night when a girl visits. Over time, her belly grows, until one day it explodes and a child emerges. Then 3 people, looking like members of the strange cult, grab the child. Victor gets very angry, takes out his gun, and fires randomly at everyone. Then strange winged beings appear in the sky and speak to Victor. They call him the Chosen One, saying he is the one who will save humanity. Victor is then sacrificed and crucified to save the world. Finally, ending 10 is the most mysterious one. One night, an old man comes to Victor and hands him a paper filled with strange symbols. On another night, he tells Victor to follow him to Mushroom Land, but warns him to hurry before the giant mushroom grows too large. But when they finally arrive, it's too late. The mushroom has grown huge, triggering a massive earthquake. This is the last ending, and by far the strangest of them all. We've seen the characters, the visitors, and the many endings, but the game still leaves one question. Who can you really trust? That was No, I'm Not a Human. Until next time,